And honestly, this one is going to be one for the books. I have a jam-packed show for you guys. Sports funny guys and my friends, Eric Casson and Frank Nicotero, will be here for their hot takes on week 2. Crazy as it was. HTTV designer to the athletes, Shay Holland, will be here as well to give us her secrets to make your home more football friendly. And injury expert Brian Scott from the Injury List podcast will update us with injuries from week 1 and 2 and who to count on in your sports betting for week 3. And speaking of betting, betting expert Alex White joins us once again from Vegas to give us her best bet in week 3. Jason Cooper will be here to tell us who you should start and sit in his fantasy segment. And finally, former NFL tight end from the Titans and the Buccaneers, Ben Troupe, will be here for week 3 picks. Like I said, guys, jam-packed show. Let's get it started with headlines. Upsets galore in week 2, folks. We'll touch on that in a minute. But first, 12 games were decided by one score, including 5 that had the game-winning score in the final minute of regulation or overtime. There have been 22 games decided by 8 points or fewer this season. Only one previous season in 2013 beats that record with 23 games. 4 teams, the LA Chargers, Vikings, Saints, and Seahawks, have begun the season 2-0 after missing the playoffs last season. Moving on to NFC, AFC Players of the Week. You know I love this one. On the offense, running back Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints. He scored an NFL season-high 4 touchdowns, 3 rushing, 1 receiving, and totaled 180 scrimmage yards. The Saints lead the NFL with 91 points this season. The most points by a team in the first 2 games of a season in 15 years. On the defense, safety Jesse Bates of the Atlanta Falcons, he recorded 12 tackles, 2 passes defensed, 1 interception, and a tackle for loss in Atlanta's 22-21 come-from-behind victory against Philadelphia. Bates, of course, got the game-sealing interception with 27 seconds remaining in the game. Special teams kicker Austin Seibert of the Washington Commanders, he recorded the second most points in the NFL in week 2 at 21. He converted all 7 of his field goal attempts in the Commanders' 21-18 victory over the Giants. He holds that franchise record. Moving on to AFC. On the offense, running back James Cook of the Buffalo Bills, he scored 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 receiving, and totaled 95 scrimmage yards, helping Buffalo defeat Miami 31-10. Cook's 49-yard rushing touchdown is the longest in the NFL this season. On the defense, DE Max Crosby of the Las Vegas Raiders. He recorded 6 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and a pass defensed. His 4 tackles for loss are the most in a single game among AFC players this season. And special teams, Kayami Fairbairn of the Houston Texans. Fairbairn he converted all 4 of his field goals attempts in the Texans' 19-13 victory over the Bears. Sunday night football, of course, including 3 from over 50 yards, becoming the first player all time with multiple career games of 3 or more 50-yard field goals made. Finally, upsets. I'm going to say it one more time. Upsets. The Vikings beat the 49ers 23-17. Cowboys got destroyed by the Saints 44-19. Ravens blew a double-digit lead in the 4th quarter against the Raiders. Final score, 26-23. Lions blew a home loss to a banged-up Buccaneers 2016. Chiefs almost lost to the Bengals, but escaped due to a last-second 51-yard field goal by Harrison Butker, 26-25. And the Philadelphia Eagles got poo-pooed on by the Dirty Birds, 22-21. The Falcons, of course, with that go-ahead touchdown by Drake London in the last 34 seconds of the game. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
Is that who you're talking about?
All right, so many upsets, and I did so bad in my leagues this week. I don't even want to talk about it. I need some funny in my life. I need some lightheartedness. So I brought not one, but two funny guys to discuss these upsets and hot takes from week 2. Eric Casson, Frank Nicotero, get in here. Hello.
What's going on, Deb?
How are you? Good. Eric, you doing good? Frank, doing good?
I'm doing good. I'm driving. I'm in Las Vegas now, and I'm playing a lot of the good comp. Great, but I also got hooked up with playing these. I guess they're retirement homes, basically. And I'm heading to a show at 6 p.m., which I've never done in my life. So I'm on my way to the Starbright Theater in Summerlin, Nevada.
I love it. So guys, let's talk about these upsets. Vikings beating the 49ers 23-17. Who would have thought?
Deb, we got to take this one because I am a diehard Jet fan, as you know. So what the Jets like to do is they like to draft people, and then they like to be good about 6 months later, a la Geno Smith, and you got Sam Darnold. Also, what kills me about Sam Darnold winning is that the quarterback development of the Jets is just that. We wait for the Green Bay Packers to develop a quarterback. So Jordan Love will be the starting quarterback of the New York Jets in about 2034. By the way, just to let you guys know a little factoid for Sam Darnold. Did you know that Sam Darnold's grandfather was and is the Marlboro Man?
What? Shut up, really?
Look it up, folks, and guess what? Without just being the Marlboro Man's pretty cool. Guess what Sam Darnold's grandfather is, and this is not fake news, folks, Dick Hammer. So all I got to say to somebody with a name like that, where to have lineage and have an offspring, he's eventually going to be good at something.
Yeah, and Dick Hammer was the name of my band in high school, actually, but we didn't realize that was the real name. I rooted for the Vikings. I'll always root for the Vikings. Any team that loses 4 Super Bowls, I'm a fan of it. To see that. Plus, Brandon Ayuk totally playing my Steelers. I don't mind seeing the Niners lose.
Well, and Frank, to that point with the Steelers, can they continue to win by only making field goals? Let me tell you.
What do you mean? What do you mean, Deb? They have 1 touchdown. All right.
They have 1 touchdown. They have 1 defensive touchdown. That is
Deb,
it.
the Steelers have been doing this for about 8 years now. The reason that Tomlin looks the way that he does is not because of a condition. It's actually the production of his quarterbacks when he looks at the stat sheet. That's why his eyes are always like that. If you were to give Tomlin a guy that doesn't have 2 left feet and can't throw the ball for a quarterback, the man will get 10 wins every season. In my eyes, he's been coach of the year for about the last 11 years since Big Ben left.
Yeah, there's a lot of hatred for Tomlin because of everyone dwelling on he's never had a losing season. I mean, always going to draft in the middle of the pack, right? So to get a Justin Fields, who he was enamored with at Ohio State, the Steelers have always loved Ohio State players. Cam Hayward, Ohio State, Santonio Holmes. So he was a fan of Justin Fields, obviously, when I think 10th to the Bears or whatever. But he loved him and he wanted him. I wish I could go back in time, because there was a bet about 3 weeks ago who would start opening day for the Steelers, and it was Russell Wilson -100 and Justin Fields plus 380. And I said, man, I should take a flyer on this and bet Justin Fields, knowing Russell Wilson's a little brittle. But I didn't take it. I would have cleaned up, but it's not as bad as the guy. There was a guy that we showed 2 clips of today on Punchlines, he bet $10,000 that the Carolina Panthers would score at least one touchdown in their opening game, which they didn't. $1,000 that Bryce Young would start game 3. So he lost $1,000 actually. So I'll be okay not betting the Justin Fields bet because that guy's much sadder than me.
Hey,
Wow.
Deb, I would be on the phone with Mike Tomlin telling him to call up Bill Cowher because the Steelers had a player. His name was Slash, Cordell Stewart, because he punts and passes. Fields is the similar kind of player. He can do everything on the field because he's about a step away from being a punt returner if Wilson actually gets his act together. So if I was Tomlin, I'd be thinking about Swiss Army knifing this guy like a Deebo Samuel as much as possible, because when you have a defense like that, you're going to be able to win games with scoring 15 points.
Yeah, and they stamped that they had him lined up wide a few plays. A couple of the local guys were talking about, but now that he's the guy, he's right at quarterback. But who knows the rest of the long NFL season, Deb.
Right, it's a long season. And Eric, you're a huge Giants fan. Let's talk about that Giants-Commanders game. What the hell?
That's blasphemy. I have a huge Jets sweatshirt on there,
I don't
Deb.
even see what you're wearing.
I am a rare Yankee. I'm a rare
same.
Yankee Jet fan. It's okay though. Listen, I wish I wasn't a Jet fan. I wish that I made the right decision. We have a niece. She's 10. I found her with a Jets jersey on. I told my brother we need to stop the circle of abuse with being a sports fan because the Jets do not win anything just in the season. And speaking of the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, you know what? I see here that is Aaron Rodgers finally starting to come back?
Yeah,
it's ring rust right now. When you're out for a year and a half, I'm 41 and I played athletics and obviously not at the level of Aaron Rodgers. And my body hurts when I get out of the bed in the morning. Imagine what Aaron Rodgers is actually feeling today. So he's going to take about 2 or 3 games. And now what you're seeing in the NFL is you're starting to see the preseason start to bleed over in the first 4 games of the regular season. That's why I would say to a lot of people, do not touch betting for the first 4 weeks to see where the dust settles. And not to mention, Deb, I was going to say before, when I was placing my bets earlier this week, when I saw 5 road teams that were favorites away, I was like, something's fishy here. So I had to abort. I did not bet on the 49ers game and the Vikings game. I aborted on that. But as far as the Jets are concerned, Will McDonald stepped in as defensive end, 3 sacks this year. I've been high on this guy for about 2 years. He wasn't getting any play time. The greatest thing about watching Aaron Rodgers throw the ball is that we have a smart quarterback that can make those throws. Mike Williams on the second down by the sideline, the nice little drop ball that you have. He throws the prettiest ball in the NFL next to Patrick Mahomes, I would say at this point. The back shoulder catch from Wilson. I mean, this guy, I see him, and I'm like, thank God his name is not Zach Wilson, because that is amazing for me. It's starting, but now this is what the Jets do, Deb. You see this? You see this positivity? You see the smile? No. Okay? What they're going to do is they're going to get me up, and then they're going to throw me down a flight of stairs, which they always do, Deb. Just end the season. I'm not buying it yet. But it looks like they're headed for some good territory, but I'm knocking on wood.
All right, my last question to you guys. Guys, the Saints look legit. Beat the Cowboys 24-10.
I laugh at that too, Frank.
47-10.
Well, yeah, I mean,
should we be scared?
well, we talked about this the other day. If you ended the NFL season right now, Derek Carr could be the MVP. But we also showed the stat that Derek Carr plays very well in election years. If you look at his 2016, 1,000 yards, maybe like 28 touchdowns, 6 picks. 2020 was another good year. So he was on schedule to have another good year. But
Frank, is that why he hasn't had a good season since the Reagan administration? Is that true? I just read that.
Exactly. When he played peewee ball, but I don't know. I've always liked the Saints. When I was a kid, I liked their black and gold. It was close to the Steelers. So I don't know. I think they are. You put up 47 points against the Panthers. That's like, okay, it's the Dallas who took them lightly. I think. I mean, they looked real crisp. And Derek Carr, I think, scored on his first 15 or 16 possessions, right? It was either a touchdown that he scored on every drive. So I think the Saints are for real. But like he was saying, like week 3 will be interesting because now we'll know, a lot about the first 2 weeks. Let's see how these teams plan.
Deb, I'm going to have to go into an opposite direction. I'm gonna have to go into an opposite direction of Frank. I think so. There used to be a player actually on the Mets called Jeff Kent, and his nickname was Jeff Once a Month Kent. Now, if you look at his quarterbacking career so far, Derek Carr, he is fantastic. Frank is right on the money with this one. He's fantastic in the beginning of the season. Then the wheels fall off. I've heard it from him before. I saw him on Gruden Camp on YouTube. He's got a new YouTube show talking to Carr. And Carr's like, I've had the best offseason. I'm in the best shape. I'm eating keto. Listen, man, you better be eating quarterback pills because that starts to wear off after about the fourth game, okay? And the Cowboys, bro. Dude, stop betting on the Cowboys. Don't take any of their action. I don't know who that team is. They're Jekyll and Hyde. They're just like a lot like the Yankees. They have a great regular season and haven't done a lot in the postseason lately.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for being with me today for Hot Takes.
Thanks, Deb.
We're promoting on you guys before you leave. Bye. Hi, Courtney.
Say, I'm a Redskins fan.
Commanders,
but
Commanders.
I'm Native American, so I'm allowed to say Redskins.
You get to say that.
But I always expect for them to lose.
So they won the other day.
I also felt as though I was very excited to the first.
I picked them to win, so I was excited to see.
Commanders have a brighter future than the Giants right now.
They do. All right, guys, where can everybody find you? Eric, go ahead.
You can find me at New York Minute. That's NEWYRKMIN on Instagram. Also, New York Minute Podcast on Spotify and YouTube.
All right, and Frank?
At Frank Nicotero on all social media. But if you go to YouTube, at Punchlines FN, my initials, and that's where you can see the daily show that I do live from the sportsbook at the South Point Casino here in Las Vegas, Monday through, and it's a blast. So please check it out. Deb, you've been on, and we want you back. Our boss, the guy who runs the sportsbook, there, Chris Andrews, loves you. It's like anytime she's in town.
I will be there. I will be there with bells on. I loved it was always my dream to be in that studio. So let's do it. All right, guys. My next guest is not only an HDTV designer, she's the go-to designer to the NFL athletes as well. Everyone, Shay Holland.
Let's get started. Oh, that's real good.
Shay, how are you?
What an introduction. Thank you.
I'm so excited that you're here today on the Blonde Blitz. Thanks for stopping by.
Oh, I really appreciate you having me.
Of course. So we've been friends for a while, and your designs are incredible, and I know you love it. But you also love sports too, NFL in particular. How were you able to combine the two?
You know, it's always been a natural fit for me. Ever since I was a kid, my dad was actually an NFL hopeful. And the military draft kind of cut short that dream of his. But I think he had me playing football by the time I could walk. And, football is bigger than I was. And so it's just always been something that has united our family. And a lot of my family worked for the Steelers. And then growing up in the Midwest, we call it Big Ten country. And so it was actually a bunch of former players and pro athletes who kind of then helped me move forward in my career with design. I was sitting at the house of one of these athletes one day, and he's watching HGTV. And now this is before I was on it years ago. And I'm like, why are you sitting here watching HGTV? Like, what is it that's so fascinating about it? And so then I was introduced to HGTV through an athlete, and a lot of my friends that have retired from the NFL went into real estate. So it's just been this natural marriage that for me has just always been there in my life.
What do you think the draw is with design and NFL players?
That's such a great question, because I know we were going to talk a little bit later about this, but I'm going to bring it up now. When we were pitching a show bringing up both design and sports, as football in particular, we found so many players who were into design, so many who had gone to school for it, so many who have studied design. And part of it, I think, is just that because of their life and because it's very difficult for them to go out in public, oftentimes home becomes that sanctuary. Home becomes the place that they can rest and rejuvenate, not have to answer questions, especially if there's been a loss that week or something like that. And so it really, sanctuary is definitely the word that I think the player finds. And then because of, once they get up to a certain level, a lot of them you'll find, it's not just Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or other, Patrick Mahomes. They're not the only ones buying homes and then selling them, buying and selling and buying. And so they begin to get really familiar with real estate and design because they're designing their own places over and over and over again.
And you spoke about home with design. Who taught you to renovate?
It was actually my dad that got me started because we were a military family. The housing is not gorgeous. And so, he put a hammer in my hand by the time I was a little kid again and was like, help me, with the home upgrade. We're going to upgrade this place. And then I went and started learning to build houses with Habitat for Humanity, which builds houses for deserving families, and just learned so much there. And it was a natural, again, marriage of helping the families then design their homes after we had built them too. And so that's really what started it all was, it's like I said, it's always just been something I've always done, it seemed.
And how did you get your NFL clients? How did that come to be?
A lot of that is just, again, given where I'm from, I think I really started to look at it as, it's not that I've sought them out, but a few years ago, I was sitting at a brunch back in my hometown in the Midwest. And as I looked around the table, I think 5 of the 6 guys were all, former NFL players. And I had just grown up with them or knew them from, our hometown. I never really even thought about it. And then also having a pro athlete in my family, my brother's a professional athlete as well. And so then he brought in that circle of athletes. And it just seemed, we've just always been surrounded by athletes. My dad actually, after the military, became a tennis teaching professional. And then he was working at a place called the Sports Center. And their athletes from around the world would come to train at this, world-class facility. It was also one of the only places that had indoor clay tennis courts. And so then it was athletes from around the country would come to practice on clay to prepare for Europe. And so I was always around this big group of athletes. We would have the Bears that would come and train at that facility, Chicago Bears. And so it's just always been our world. And I think partly because, I'm just from a family that sports is just, it's our lifeline, really.
Okay. Can you tell me who your clients are? I want to know.
I think a couple have actually agreed to come on if you want us back later.
Oh,
but
yeah. That would be fabulous.
Yes, because I've learned so much from my clients too. They are exposed to so much more than I am, just given, their budgets, their ability to travel, their income. And so I'm constantly learning from my clients too. They're learning maybe how to space plan, and they're learning from me, lighting principles, and they're learning those kinds of things. But I'm learning resources, and I'm being introduced to artists through them. But their privacy is one of the reasons that they hire me. A lot of my clients, privacy, obviously, especially in this day and age, it's actually become so much more important with the internet and everything else. Stalkers, people can find them. And so privacy is something that we really focus on. Home security is huge. And so, that's oftentimes like one of the first things we'll do. So that's why I don't necessarily give the names of don't want to put them or myself necessarily at risk. Since, I know what went into, say, the security system, I know what the valuables are in the homes. And so we do have to pay much more attention to security these days, unfortunately.
Right. And to your point with security, what's the difference between working with an NFL client and working with just, say, regular clients?
Well, obviously budgets. When I'm working with my HGTV families, it's really different than when I'm working with an NFL athlete. And they both have their different challenges. And with HGTV families, I don't have enough money to do what we would love to do. With my NFL clients, I'm actually having to create a vision because the world is kind of unlimited, but that doesn't mean you're going to end up with a great home just because you have an unlimited budget. And so in both cases, it's really about problem solving and creating a place that's unique for them. And with NFL athletes, you do have some challenges because they are a lot of times, for example, they're just bigger than the average population oftentimes, especially if they're, an offensive tackle or something like that.
These big guys.
Average,
Big guys.
They're big.
Yes. I'm always when I'm on the field, I'm like, oh my God.
I know. I started out doing sports reporting, and I actually had to carry this box around to stand on so that I could, kind of get close to doing an interview with the athletes. And so we have to take into consideration, for example, like one of the clients I'm working with now, one of the top requests, he loves cooking, and that was for counters that are a bit higher. He's taller. I think was a center, and so we have to figure out, okay, how do we work with the needs of the other members of the family who are kind of more normal height, and make sure that it's comfortable for him as the main cook of the family. So we'll raise the counters a couple of inches, for example. You often have to look at seating. You want to make sure that there's the depth so that when they sit on the sofa, they're comfortable. When they sit down in a chair, it's not going to break because of the repeated weight that comes upon it. And so there's definitely some considerations in that aspect too. And then also just the request for a lot of them, don't necessarily want to work out at home the way that they would work out with their teammates, but they want to stay fit. They want that home fitness area, and trying to put a fitness area, a gym in particular that has like world-class level weights and things like that is a huge challenge, just logistically. I had one client recently, the rubber mat flooring was delivered at, I think it was delivered after the weights. And so it was thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of equipment that had to be moved in and out. And we couldn't do a forklift because of the configuration of where we were putting the gym. And I had to hire, I don't even know how many guys I had to hire, and had to manually carry thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of equipment in and out. So gyms have their own challenges.
How long did that take?
These guys were amazing. I will say I have been very fortunate to find really hard workers, except for one guy that day that showed up. There's a group that I used. I called and got the guys sent over from this company. And one of them showed up and looked at me and walked away. And one of the other guys said, they didn't tell us it was a female foreman today. And I thought, and I'm also short, and it doesn't look like I can do much, but I know my craft. I may not be able to pick up, 300 pounds, but I know my craft. And so there's definitely some challenges when I'm working, with men in general.
Okay, so what is my last question? What is the craziest request that you've gotten from an NFL athlete? Like stripper pole, giant slide from level 4 to level 3, like lazy river, give it to me.
That's funny. You'd be surprised that at least maybe because I work more with people from the Midwest, the requests aren't wild. Unlike maybe in LA.
That's true.
Which I won't even tell you what I've seen in LA. Some of my clients in LA, I do have to tell them.
You will get that out of you at one point.
Yeah, as you know, in LA, I'll have to, it can get really uncomfortable because you're really in people's, private spaces, everything from their drawers to their closets to, everything about them. But one of the projects I'm working on now, the client wants a dining table to seat 25 people. 25 people.
They like entertaining. They like the whole football team to come.
Right. But it's a multi-generational family. And I'm like, okay, now, so we want, to be able to separate them for when they're not in use, but most of the time they will be. And just the configuration, seating, lighting, and so the requests that I get are more in line with how the players actually live. And this player, like I said, does have multi-generational family members that'll be living on the property. And so this is not an out of, the box request for them. This is how we live. We want to focus more on our family. We want to grow our family, and we need the space to be able to do that. And so, so it's a lot of fun because, again, for me, I love solving problems. And with the players, a lot of times it's more, okay, here's the problems, just like any client, though. It's the same with my HGTV clients. A lot of times what makes a home great is that you've solved a problem, you've made the home functional, and you've made it feel like a really good place just to relax in.
And to be home. All right. Well, Shay, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. You'll be coming back again and again, right? We want to hear more.
Anytime, absolutely.
Where can our audience find you?
I am on Instagram, mainly just at Shay Holland Official. And so that would probably be the easiest place to just kind of try to track me down.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, now we know that NFL players aren't getting hurt from sliding in their houses, but they are getting hurt on the field. More so, I think, this year than any season in the past recently. Please welcome Brian Scott from Inside the Medical Tent to the show. Brian.
The doctor is in now.
I love it.
There he is. Hi, Brian.
What's up? I'm actually inside the virtual athletic training room for That Sports Podcast Network. If you look around, we got our sponsors.
Look at that. It's hard to see.
The wall there.
Very fancy.
Is it?
So, Brian, many injuries in week 1 and 2, right? So many injuries.
Yeah, it's been a little crazy. It's been a little crazy, but you cannot blame the turf this year because we haven't seen any ACL injuries yet.
But in that game in Brazil, I mean, come on. That
fine. I'll give you that.
Jordan Love, maybe out for a couple
weeks. Give you
that. Okay.
Well, part of the problem there too was they were in Brazil, so the workup wasn't quite what it would have been had they been home. So that took a little bit of time to develop and figure out what was going on with him, location being the issue there. But other than that, it's been a wide variety of injuries, which has kind of struck me as most peculiar this year, rather than where a couple of years ago, everybody was tearing their hamstring, everybody was tearing their ACL. This year, it's been a very wide array of injuries that have come out. Going back to preseason, when you have a guy like A.J. Dillon with a brachial plexus injury that's now keeping him out for the entire year. And then you have J.J. McCarthy tearing his meniscus, having that repaired, losing his entire rookie season. And it's just been one kind of weird thing after another. The whole CMC calf that turned into an Achilles injury that now saw him go on IR. And then you've got, the Jordan Love injury, of course, Puka Nacua with a PCL sprain now on IR. I mean, like the list just keeps growing. Cooper Kupp. I feel like he's always on the injured list at some point during the years here, but this is like akin to his season a few years ago where he missed an extensive period of time with ankle issues. So again, he's down with an ankle. It's just been and then Hollywood Brown with the sternoclavicular injury, which is an odd injury in and of itself to get in football. It's just been a lot of weird stuff. And I don't really know what's going on.
Too, right?
Yeah. Justin Jefferson with like an ankle or something he's dealing with all of a sudden coming out of nowhere.
It's not great. Justin Herbert.
Herbert with plantar fasciitis. Him and Keenan Allen, I think maybe they got the same thing going on. Maybe they're wearing the same shoes. I don't know. But a lot of weird stuff. There hasn't been any like real particular pattern this season. But one thing I did notice, and this was a little concerning, is that they went out of their way to make the hip drop tackle illegal. And yet I've seen multiple hip drop tackles result in injuries already. In fact, Joe Mixon this past weekend clearly got taken down by a hip drop tackle. Nothing was called. He might miss some time this week with that injury. They had an MRI. It was nothing serious. But, if they're going to try to make the game safer for guys, they've got to make that call. And there's been several instances already this young season that I've noticed where guys have gotten taken down with obvious hip drop tackles and they have not thrown the flag. So I'm not sure what's going on there, Deb.
What about for week 3? A lot of the audience, sports betting, fantasy, who should, who's in, who's out?
Well, the big news, obviously, aside from Joe Mixon possibly being out, was the Cooper Kupp injury, and then Evan Ingram dealing with the hamstring issue. issue. He is questionable heading into this weekend as well, even though they have a Monday night football game coming up, which gives him basically an extra day. He actually injured it in warmups on Sunday and was a very late last-minute scratch, which is really odd. And if you listen to my other guest appearances and stuff, you'll know that hamstring injuries, it's kind of like all or nothing when you injure them. It's usually not a mild kind of subtle thing. So my guess is he'll probably miss that Monday night football game this week. We'll have to see what he does in the next few days here, but it's not boding well. And then Deebo Samuel with the calf strain, they've already said he's going to miss a few weeks. So that's another guy out. We got guys like Josh Downs who are trying to make their way back from ankle injuries. I was expecting him to be ready this weekend, so we'll have to see if he's able to ramp up his activity as we head to the final stretch of the practices this week. And then Pacheco with a fibula fracture, he's going to be out at least 6 to 8 weeks.
You just named my
sounds
entire
like he might even go on IR.
My entire fantasy team. I have Puka. I have Isaiah Pacheco. Yeah. If Mahomes,
you're not alone,
down,
Deb.
Yeah,
you're not alone. There's been a lot of high-profile names on there, for sure. Good news is not a lot of major injuries as of yet, even though they will cost these guys some time. They're not season-ending or career-threatening. Most of these guys will get better and be back out there. But, here we are, shortened preseason, extended regular season. You got to wonder about durability in this new league.
Anything else you wanted to touch upon so everyone knows for week 3?
No, I do a lot of updates throughout the week. Usually on Thursdays, you can find me with some other former colleagues of mine doing some updates. And then Friday on TSS Fantasy, we have a big show Friday nights at 9. And then another Sunday early morning show. We do a kind of a last-minute rundown of all those late last-minute questionables, probables, outs, IR stints, who might play, when they might make the decision, what to expect if they do come back. So if you want more information, tune in. And then Andrew Leduc and I from That Sports Podcast Network, we do a blog which we put out on Thursdays, as you termed it, Inside the Medical Tent, where we do a little bit more in-depth analysis, both on the injury front and on the roster management front about what you can do to make changes to your roster in the face of injuries on your players. So, Deb, you might want to tune into that blog because you might get some good.
Just fill up my inbox, please, because I'm hurting right now.
Absolutely.
All right, Brian, thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you again soon.
My pleasure, Deb.
All right, guys, speaking of week 3, coming to us from the Sportsbook TV studio from South Point Casino in Las Vegas, sports betting expert Alex White. Alex, what's your best bet this week?
Over there at the Blonde Blitz, Alex White here. I am back again. I'm sorry about last week. The Miami Dolphins, not a great pick. Hope Tua Tagovailoa comes back strong and does not have to retire. But we're going to move on. I'm going to give you a winner for this week. Fingers crossed. We are going with the Philadelphia Eagles +3 at New Orleans. There is only 1-3 out there. It is at Circa. So you got to get it now. People are betting. They're taking the points because this team does have a chance to win outright. I know their defense has struggled a little bit, but the Eagles are going to be ready to play. They should have won that game on Monday night against the Falcons. Saquon Barkley, he is a beast. And the Saints defense, they haven't seen anyone like him yet. You're giving me the better quarterback with Jalen Hurts against Derek Carr. You're giving me 3 points. They can definitely win this game outright. Eagles +3 at New Orleans. I'm Alex White. Please follow me on Twitter at Alex White with 2 E's. And follow our fun shows, Punchlines FN with Frank Nicotero, who you just saw today, and Sports by the Book. Appreciate you all. Next week or the week after, I will be live on the show with Deb. I cannot wait. Love you guys over there at the Blonde Blitz.
Shut up and take my money.
Alex, thank you so much. Cannot wait till you are here live with us. Well, you cannot have sports betting without fantasy now, can we? And like I said, the first time in my life I'm doing a fantasy league and I'm not doing so hot. But Jason Cooper, who am I starting and sitting this week?
We're on a mission, guys. We're on a mission, guys.
What is up, Deb? Thanks for having me in.
Of course, happy for you to be here. So who am I starting? Who am I sitting? I really need some help.
All right. Well, first, Blonde Blitz Nation. I wanted to shout out Brian, who follow him on, of course, on Twitter. He had like 2 weeks ago was all bragging about his fantasy team on Twitter and put out all his big victories. But all of a sudden, he lost to the commissioner, and I didn't see him tweeting this week. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later, Brian. Wink, wink. All right. Instead of doing starts and sits, Deb, I thought it'd be a little bit more fun instead. And of course, if anyone's watching, got any comments or any questions, please go ahead and put it in the comments. Be happy to answer them. I figured I'd run down a DFS lineup. And for those that don't know, that's daily fantasy. Go to Underdog Fantasy. Use the promo code BLONDE, right? That's what it is, Deb, or I forget.
It's code BLONDE, yeah.
Use the promo code BLONDE. They'll double your deposit up to $100. And I'm going to give you a good lineup to throw in there so that way you can get some money while you're watching the Blonde Blitz. All right, let's start out first at the QB position. Really, really like Joe Burrow this week. And he comes in as a good value. As I'm looking at it now, he's like about mid-tier as far as price goes, and you have to do it by budget when you do DFS. Washington right now is dead last against fantasy quarterbacks. Whether T. Higgins is back in this lineup or not, I don't think it matters. Joe Burrow is going to have a great day against the Commanders. He's a great fantasy play for your DFS lineup. And then I'm going to spend a little money in the running back position because I see two really good plays. First, let's go to Jordan Mason, who we were just talking about. Christian McCaffrey, I heard you speak about him earlier, being injured on the IR. Now you have Jordan Mason, who basically has nobody behind him right now to take away any carries from him. And they're going against the Rams, who are 31st against fantasy running backs. So it's a great play for you, but you are spending a little bit for him. And then I'm going to spend a little bit extra for an oldie but goodie, Derek, the man, I don't even know what else to say, Henry, going against Dallas. Now, if you've watched any of these Ravens games, the offense has struggled a bit. And you want to know why? They paid all this money for this big back, and they're not using him. They're going to, I don't get paid a lot, and I'm sure those guys that get paid a lot to watch this probably understand that too. I'm guarantee you're going to see a lot of Derrick Henry in this matchup. Dallas, by the way, dead last against fantasy running backs. So that is the great play, why you want to spend up a little bit for Derrick Henry. And then I'm going to go back to that Rams 49ers matchup. I like Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel now out for at least 2 weeks. Yeah. So a good matchup again. This Rams defense has gotten a little soft since Aaron Donald's gone. So 24th against fantasy receivers. He's a good play. Demarcus Robinson, you mentioned Cooper Kupp a minute ago as well being down, and Puka Nacua. So who else is left? Demarcus Robinson is pretty much the next man standing. San Francisco, surprisingly, 28th against fantasy receivers. Who else is Matt Stafford going to throw to? And the other good play here is Quentin Johnson. And the reason Pittsburgh's actually 8th against fantasy receivers. However, in my estimation, watching these Chargers offense, they are literally making plays designed to get this guy the ball. And in fantasy, that's all you want. You want guys that are going to get the ball. So he's a great play, and he comes at a great value, way under. He'd be, if you're doing it tier-wise, he'd probably be 5th or 6th tier as far as your cost value. So he's a great play to put in there. And it allows me at the tight end position to put Brock Bowers in. He's the new thing, if you will, in fantasy right now. Carolina, going against the Carolina Panthers, who are 30th against fantasy tight ends. So he's a great play there. Kenneth Walker. Now, I threw him in this lineup, but I put it with a question mark. He did not practice today, still with the oblique. But if he does going against America's team, the Miami Dolphins, they are 25th against running backs. We all saw what James Cook did to them on Thursday night. Unfortunately, I had to see it live and wasn't fun. And then finally for the DST, I'm going back to that lineup again. Seahawks versus the Dolphins. The bottom line is Skylar Thompson's going to make mistakes in this matchup. It's just going to happen. Not to say he's not going to be able to have a good fantasy day himself, but he will cough up the football at least once or twice. So I think Seahawks is a good play, especially at home. They're a good play. So there we go. That's your DFS lineups for the Blonde Blitz Nation.
Thank you so much, Jason. I have to go back and watch the show now so I can jot everything down so I can make my changes and figure everything out. Thank you so much. Do you want to stay on for picks, or is Ben
Yeah, I don't mind at all. Yeah, Ben's waiting in the wings, so let's bring him on. With it.
Guys, Ben Troupe, former tight end for the Titans and the Buccaneers, get on in here for some game week 3 picks. I'm dancing. Hi, Ben. I love that music. It makes me really excited all the time. How are you? How was your week?
It was good. It was good. I mean, I'm just listening to all the fantasy pick. D-Rob, shout out to my Florida Gators. Trying to get some love out there with them Rams. And yeah, I agree with you, Commissioner. If you're gonna pay Derrick Henry all that money, listen. I mean, what did Bill Parr say? Listen, man, if you're gonna let me pick out, if I go to the store, at least let me pick out the groceries. I'm just saying, get a man the Rock, man, and let Lamar Jackson get in the win column, because 0-3.
Doesn't look good. Not a good look at all. All right, guys, we got Eagles at Saints Sunday, 1 p.m. Ben, we'll start with you.
I know the Saints going crazy right now, right? I know. Obviously, Alvin Kamara and Derek Carr. I mean, Taysom Hill is still getting NFL checks for those of us who don't know. But I just think these Eagles coming out. Listen, they lost to the real Birds on Monday night. Them dirty Birds lost to the real ones. Because they're gonna be playing. Very, very, very motivated football. Saquon Barkley, he came out and said, "I lost the game." I think it's gonna be a good game, but I think the Eagles get back to the win column, and the Saints get their first loss of the year.
All right, Cooper, what do you got?
Ooh, oh man, I'd be sleeping on the couch tonight if I picked the Saints. I'll be honest with you, so I'm definitely not doing that. But this is what I will say: the Saints are hot right now. There was no way anyone thought they was going to go into Dallas and do what they did, but they sure the heck did it. And I don't see, again, the Eagles have some issues, I guess, because we're back to doing stupid things. Like, the bottom line is, why do you throw the football? I know it's those high percentage pass. I get it. But why do you throw the football with that? You want to burn clock. You want them to use timeouts, and you throw the football. You're like, here, let's get, I literally, my wife is sitting next to me. I'm like, the first thing, as soon as that happened, I said, well, you just gave him a chance. And that's all Kirk Cousins needed, because then they played this shell. I don't even know what happened. Anyway, let me not go on and on. Bottom line, I think the Eagles do get back. I agree with Ben. I do think the Eagles get back on track, but I would not be surprised if this Saints teams come out. And we know from past experiences, Derek Carr is a good quarterback, but he is a roller coaster. It's good sometimes, and it's not so good sometimes.
Every
so
4 years now.
How that
like
goes.
Frank said.
Right.
Well, first of all, Barkley, he's a running back. Run the ball. Why are you throwing? Literally, I was screaming at the TV. So yeah, I mean, the Eagles just aren't clicking. Also, AJ Brown is out. Super disappointed about that. I think that's definitely hurting the Eagles. The Saints are on fire. Like I said, 91 points. They've got the top points of the league right now in the second week. Killed the Panthers in Dallas. Camaro just got Offensive Player of the Week, which I said earlier. I do think the Eagles will bounce back because everyone's so down and the fans are already ready to give up already. I just wish they weren't playing the Saints. I think it's another loss for the Eagles on this one.
Back-to-back loss. Alvin Kamara is a man child. All he do, he might be the smoothest running back to ever play. He just does it effortlessly with the gold cleats on. But I'm like you, Commissioner. I will never pick the Saints because I'm a Falcons fan, and I might not have to sleep on the couch. I will put myself on the couch, not dealing with it.
By the way, the Saints are favored by 3 on this one, so I think we'll see. Texans at Vikings Sunday at 1 p.m. Commissioner, we'll start with you on this one.
Ooh, that's a tasty one there. I like that matchup. But listen, the Texans, I think they've there's a disservice done to them because nobody's really talking about how good their defense is. It's always talking about their offense. They have a really, really good defense. And I think this is where it kind of shines today. Sam Darnold's going to start seeing ghosts again this weekend. I think the Texans win this kind of easy, to be frank. And Justin Jefferson, as Brian alluded to earlier, is also a little hobbled going into this. So, I like Texans all day.
Ben, what do you think?
I like the Texans as well, but I got to give a shout out to Sam Darnold. I mean, being able to bounce with two. I mean, obviously, no one's had him starting. I mean, people always say, "Hey, man, change your scenery. Better player." Sam Darnold. Listen, Sam Darnold got on the phone. Sam Darnold got on the phone yesterday and called the Panthers and said, "Hey, Bryce, it gets better, G. Listen to me. It's all right now. I know they trying to make you the scapegoat up there in Carolina." Because Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and Cam Newton has been in Carolina, so it ain't Bryce Young is not the problem, Coach Canales. I'm saying he is not the problem, but I do think these Texans, I do think these Texans, are a team that they just ahead of schedule and they defense. I mean, listen, and their defense is obviously outshining the offense right now, which is dangerous because the offense gonna get going. But yeah, I know. I mean, I got them Texans, D'Amico Ryans, and I do agree with him. Joe Mixon, that was a hip drop tackle, man. We got to do better. Because that man is out right now. But shout out to them boys in the AFC South, them Houston Texans. They go to 3-0.
Yeah, I'm going Texans as well. As much as I'm loving seeing Sam Darnold out there and succeeding, I said it on the first show. It's Ben, I said it on your show. I'm a Darnold fan. So, but I love CJ Stroud too. Everyone knows this about me. Both teams are 2-0. I think the Texans have a superior roster though, but don't count the Vikings out. I think Darnold will struggle with Texans, the pass rushers. I think it'll slow them down. Justin Jefferson will play, but he's injured. I'm going Texans. They're also favored by 2.5. So that's that. Going on to the Ravens at the Cowboys Sunday, 4:25 p.m. Let me go with Ben. What do you got?
Ooh, look. I never thought the Ravens would start off 0-2. I mean, lost to the Raiders up by 10 in the fourth quarter. They found a way to Gardner Minshew. I don't know what's going on with Gardner Minshew. We found a way to get it done. But here's the thing about the Dallas Cowboys. The same way we've been talking about the Philadelphia Eagles defense, Cowboys can't stop the run. They can't stop the run to save their lives. Love you, D-Law. Love you, Michael Parsons, those guys. And the thing about it, it's gonna be the Dak CD Lamb show. That's fine. Ezekiel Elliott, he's not the same player. There is 0% chance I think the Ravens start 0-3. I just don't see that happening. Harbaugh and company get back to their winning ways. Lamar Jackson says, "Look, fellas, we're gonna find out. I'm gonna hand it." Derrick Henry lives in Dallas. He got a house in Dallas. Thought he was gonna get picked up by Dallas. Dallas didn't even call his phone. Okay, y'all think Zeke better than me? Let's see. I got the Ravens getting that done.
And if the Ravens do lose, it's going to be the first time they start 0-3 since 2015.
Yeah, it's not happening. The bottom line, like Ben said, there's no way, right? But there's no way Dallas is going to go into get blown out by the Saints, neither. So,
right. Did you watch last week?
Anything can happen, but again. I don't get paid a lot to watch football. I get paid nothing. In fact, I spend money to watch football. And I know what the problem is with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm sure those people that get paid a lot of money sure do, because it doesn't make no sense to me. You pay this man all this money to come and you don't utilize him. The first game was real bad. Like that, how Lamar Jackson outrushed Derrick Henry is just idiotic. And now we're going into game 2, and I saw there were times where they just give the man the ball. It's proven already. Give Derrick Henry the football. Allow Lamar Jackson to make his plays on third downs or whenever he needs to. But give Derrick Henry the football. Play good D, and Ravens win. But again, any given Sunday, it's kind of I think the Cowboys do bounce back. So this is going to be a really good football game.
And I actually have the Cowboys winning this one. We'll see if that actually happens. I'm never going to root for Dak, but I think CeeDee Lamb and Parsons. Okay, cool. So I think, I'm going Cowboys 30, Ravens 29 for this one. Yeah. So, and one more. Let's do 49ers at Rams Sunday at 4:25 p.m. Ben, what are you thinking?
49. Listen, now before before last Sunday, I would have either win the 49ers. But then 49ers go play the Vikings. I'm like, wait, what's going on? What the 49ers? No D-Mac. I get it. Now no Debo. No C-Mac, no Debo. Brian Ayuk. I get it. Fred Warner, he just made another tackle. He makes 40 tackles a game, every single game. But the thing about this Rams team is they ain't got Cooper Kupp, they ain't got Puka, they don't. I don't even outside of what Matthew Stafford. I don't even know who played for the Rams. This is a pick'em game, and I never thought it would be a pick'em game with the Rams and the 49ers. But I will go to 40. I still think the 49ers roster still a little bit better than the Rams right now. The Rams coming into a very, very wounded team. I mean, because the Rams got the break speed off them by Arizona. I'm like, who is this Kyler Murray dude? Give me the 49ers get back to their winning ways. Listen, Debo, I was out for a couple of weeks. That offense is going to look a little bit different, but you still got 8-5. You still got George Kittle, right? I don't know what Ricky Pearsall is going to be back, but that is one of the best stories. I'm happy that this young man is back. Forget football, that he's living, but I still go with the 49ers, get back to their winning ways on Sunday.
It's a shame Brian doesn't have like $1 billion and is a billionaire, because he could literally sponsor this game, the Inside the Medical Tent Bowl, because the way both these rosters look right now, this is almost, I would like to say it's a pick'em, because history will tell you Rams have won 3 out of the last 4 in this matchup, not like the Niners, and they know each other too. So to me, it's almost a pick'em game. But of course, you just want to lean Niners because they, how good they are. But I think this is kind of up in the air. I'm just gonna say Niners because I feel like the Rams are just a tad more beat up than the 49ers are. So that's where I'll lean.
I'm going there too. I'm going San Fran. I think they have a few more weapons that aren't hurt. Obviously despite last week's loss. But yeah, I mean the 49ers are favored by 7.5. I'm that's a lot, right? That's what I thought too. I felt like that was a little generous, but God, there's just injuries on both sides as we've said. So yeah, I'm going 49ers. But all right, guys. Well, that's it for today's Blonde Blitz. Ben, thank you for coming on. Commissioner Cooper, thank you. And guys, Ben is next. He's got his show, No Weddings in Fall. So just keep on staying tuned here. One more time, let's just go over sponsorships. The show is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Go to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code BLONDE, and we'll double your deposit up to $100. And of course, if you like today's show, hit subscribe and follow us on all socials at the Blonde Blitz. Bye, guys. See you next week. Football forever. Thanks for tuning in.